resuming debate? The honourable member for York Simple. I just want to remind members, if they plan to speak, they need to stand so that to be recognized.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, I was stuck to the floor with red tape here, whoever sat here before me. It's everywhere here in Ottawa, and I'll be splitting my time with the honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
About the red tape, that, you know, that is a prop, and I would ask him not to use that. The honourable member for York Simcoe.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Whoever sat here before me, it's everywhere. They were doing their best to cut through it. Anyways, these days you'd need a chainsaw to cut through red tape in Ottawa. With Bill S6, the Liberals have brought nail clippers. As Canada's Shadow Minister for Red Tape Reduction, I am pleased to contribute to this important debate tonight. Bill S6 proposes to make 46 modest changes to update and modernize 29 acts affecting 12 different federal departments and agencies. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, which they are minor at best, do practically nothing to address the burden of red tape facing Canadians. At its core, reducing red tape is about making government work well for our country's citizens. Reducing red tape is not about deregulation for its own sake. It's about making sure that Canada's regulations do not hamper our citizens' ability to innovate and improve. It's also about ensuring that our country is globally competitive and that we are positioned to increase the prosperity of future generations of Canadians. Fundamentally, Canadians just want to go about their lives and conduct their business without complicated processes and roadblocks put in place by government departments, bureaucrats, and consultants. These are the people who act as gatekeepers to stop anything from getting done in this country and try and prevent anything from being built. Red tape overseen by these government gatekeepers is stifling Canadians. It cripples innovation, competitiveness, and limits productivity and economic growth. This is not some niche issue. Any Canadian who has ever had to fill out a government form knows how hard and frustrating red tape can be. Sadly, under the Liberals, red tape has gotten worse. The insignificant changes proposed in Bill S6 amount to just a drop in the ocean when you consider just how onerous the Liberals' red tape regime has become. Over the past 8 years, the Liberal government has increased public service spending by 53%. Costing taxpayers an additional $21 billion. But of course, this has not resulted in better outcomes for Canadians or better service deliveries for Canadians. Instead, Canadians continue to face endless delays, more regulation, burden, and red tape. According to the Federation of Independent Business, red tape costs Canadians nearly $11 billion a year. It's unbelievable, Madam Speaker. There is also a great social cost. The amount of time Canadians spend on regulatory compliance continues to be significant. This causes great stress, especially for small businesses and vulnerable Canadians. This year, the CFIB awarded the Liberals a failing C grade. They noted the government does not accurately measure the impact of federal regulations on individuals and does not properly report on what progress has been made to reduce red tape. This has consequences for our citizens and for our economy. Canada is ranked 53rd out of 140 countries for burden of government regulations. Canada performs far worse than comparable countries. We are predicted to be the worst performing advanced economy through 2030 and for decades afterwards. And the Ease of Doing Business Index, which measures regulatory efficiencies, has seen Canada continue to decline from 4th in 2007 to 23rd in 2020. These metrics all tell the same story. As a result of Canada's onerous red tape, our country's economic reputation has been tarnished. Delays in red tape continues to drive away foreign investment. The global index measuring foreign investment considers Canada as a whole to be more restrictive to foreign investment than any other OECD country except Iceland, Mexico, and New Zealand. The amount of foreign direct investment into Canada as a percent of GDP remains well below countries like Sweden, Germany, and Spain. Unfortunately, addressing red tape, improving economic growth, and promoting foreign investment has not been a priority for the federal Liberal government. According to research conducted by the Library of Parliament, this government has never sought to count the total number of federal regulations, but there are at least 4,883 in the consolidated regulations of Canada alone, with only 46 slight changes. The measures proposed in Bill S6 barely scratch the surface of the regulatory reform we need in Canada. The lack of action also applies to the overall approach of this government. It is telling that I do not have a direct counterpart in the Liberal cabinet. There are ministers responsible for red tape reduction in British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, and across many other jurisdictions around the world. But this is not the case federally. Instead, the task of reducing red tape remains a footnote and an afterthought to the many other responsibilities of the Treasury Board President. This again is a reoccurring theme, Madam Speaker. As a member of the Standing Joint Committee for the Scrutiny of Regulations, I routinely see the lack of attention red tape receives from this government. It has become commonplace for Liberal ministers to ignore repeated requests by the committee to address problematic or outdated regulations and red tape within their portfolios. And I think my honourable colleague from Maribel spoke to this tonight, Madam Speaker. In many cases, these requests have been outstanding for years, with no attempt to fix the regulations, even when they continue to affect and impact Canadians. This is unacceptable, Madam Speaker. Reducing red tape should not be a partisan issue. And yet the Liberals seem to think that more regulations are the goal, that bigger bloated government is always better. They do this without any regard for how the consequential red tape negatively affects Canadians or whether objectives or outcomes are being met. The Conservative approach to reducing red tape couldn't be more different. Chainsaws, Madam Speaker, not nail clippers. We believe there is a better way than token measures and insignificant actions like we see with Bill S6. Canada's Conservatives are committed to cutting red tape. We will prioritize plain language laws that will eliminate bureaucratic mumbo-jumbo and make it easier for Canadians to fill out government forms and access government services. We will simplify the tax system, cap government spending, and introduce a pay-as-you-go law requiring an equal amount of savings for any new government expenditures. We will also address the housing crisis, support business looking to expand by removing big city gatekeepers and NIMBY politicians, the people who put up red tape and barriers to block any expansion of our housing supply. These are concrete measures that will make life more affordable and put Canadians back in the control of their lives. After all, government is supposed to serve the people, not the other way around. There is no doubt that there are many regulations that needed to be addressed. far beyond the scope of Bill S6. Much more needs to be done to cut red tape in this country to support Canadians and encourage economic growth. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Get the chainsaw